Good afternoon. Today we're going to be working through IXL assignment BL7, percent of change. So when we're dealing with percent of change, this includes both percent increase and percent decrease. So there could be something, if you go to the store, you realize that due to, inflation or just change of prices, that the price for, the t-shirt has gone up. It's increased. And so you're curious, what's the percentage? How much does this jump up by? Or the opposite could be true. Maybe they are having a sale, and so they have decreased all of the prices. Well, whether it's an increase or a decrease, you can find that percent of change by using this formula right here. And that is where you take the amount that the item changed and divide it by the original value, and then we multiply by 100. The reason that we multiply by 100 is because we're wanting our answer to be a percent. And remember, percentages is percent per 100. So after we get our answer, it'll probably be a decimal. And even if it's not, we still need it to be in percentage form. And we can turn that number into a percent by multiplying by 100. You do have permission to use a calculator on this to do both your division and the multiplication. So now let's go ahead and hop on over to IXL so we can put this formula into play and find the percent of change. All right, here we are on IXL. Reminder, it is assignment BL7, percent of change. And don't forget that IXL has its own video that you can watch as well. So it is a great resource that you can use on other assignments as well. So our first questions here says, what is the percent of change from 40 to 72? All right, if we think about that formula that I shared with you a moment ago, the first thing that we need to do is to find the amount of change. So how much did it change when it went from 40 to 72? Well, what can we do to find that difference? We can subtract. So if we take 72 and subtract 40 from that, we get 32. So the amount that this changed is it changed by 32. And that is going to be divided by the original value. Well, when we read this, it says it went from 40 to 72. So it started at 40 and jumped up to 72, meaning that 40 is our original amount. And then after we do that division there, because we want our answer as a percent, we will end up multiplying by 100. So first step is we need to divide, because we have a scenario, order of operations, division, and multiplication. Well, when you get to that step in order of operations, you work from left to right. So we'll divide first and then multiply. When we divide 32 by 40, please make sure you put that in your calculator correctly, because it's 32 divided by 40. We need to type it in that way. 32 first, divided by 40. And we get 0 and 8/10. But because we want our answer to be represented as a percentage, we will now multiply that by 100, and we see that it had an 80% change. Well, when I look at my answer choices here, there's both an 80% increase and an 80% decrease. How do we know which one it is? Let's go back and look at the original problem. So if it went from 40 to 72, is that increasing or decreasing? That's increasing. So that means our official answer would be an 80% increase. It's a pretty big jump. Oh, don't forget to always click on the answer. The nice thing is, here, I'll clear this so you can see it better. If you ever forget, it will say, hey, it's incomplete. So a nice little reminder there that IXL has for you. All right, let's try this one. What is the percent of change from 30 to 18? So once again, the first thing we need to do is find how much it is changing by. And if we're going from 30 to 18, we can find that amount of change by subtracting 30 minus 18. And that gives us 12. That is how much it changed by. and that is going to be divided by the original amount. Well, when I go back and reread this, I see it went from 30 to 18. So 30 is our first number. It's that original amount. And then we need to multiply by 100. First up, let's divide. What is 12 divided by 30? We get the decimal 0 and 4/10, and then that's multiplied by 100. You may have noticed that I switched to using parentheses for multiplication instead of a dot. The only reason I did that is I don't want to get my decimal dot and my multiplication dot confused. So that's why I switched to parentheses. But remember, both of these forms show multiplication. All right, let's multiply that decimal by 100 to turn it into a percent, and we get the answer of 40%. Once again, we have two different choices that say 40%. So is it an increase or decrease? Well, if we went from 30 to 18, that got smaller, that decreased. So our official answer is it is a 40% decrease. All right, when you get a little bit higher up into the SMART scores, it won't become multiple choice. It'll just become where you have to type your answer in. So let's make sure we read these directions carefully. It says, what is the percent of increase from 5 to 7? Write your answer using the percent sign. All right, that's key. So when we get our answer, we have to put the percent sign in. Otherwise, it won't be marked correct. All right. Thing is, though, even though it's not multiple choice, it's not really any different than the other problems, so we can do this. If we're going from 5 to 7, and it does in fact tell us it's an increase, but I think you guys could have figured that on your own. 5 to 7 goes up. You didn't need to tell you that. You knew that. All right. Now that we know it's an increase, we're trying to find that percent of change. We need to find out how much it changed by. So if we subtract our numbers here, we can see that it increased. It changed by 2. And that's going to be divided by our original amount. Well, if it went from 5 to 7, 5 is the starting point. And then we will multiply that by 100 to get our answer as a percent. 2 divided by 5 is 0 and 4/10. Multiplied by 100 gives us 40%. And make sure, like the direction said, to put the percent sign in your answer when you type it in the box. Otherwise, it won't be correct, and that would be really unfortunate to see your SMART score drop when all you did was forget to put a percent sign in. So make sure you're careful and don't go too fast to do that. All right, let's do one more problem together. All right, when you get even higher in the SMART scores, you may end up having decimal numbers that you start with, but that's no big deal. You guys can tackle that, especially since we already have decimals later on in the problem, and you've been doing fine with that. Also, we do have permission to use that calculator, so it is okay. We got this. All right, so if we have a percent decrease from 8 and 5/10 to 0, what is that percent decrease? And we need to write our answer with the percent sign. All right, first things first, we need to find how much it changed by. So if I subtract that, oops, that's a subtraction sign, from 0, well, it changed by a whole bunch because it went from 8 and 5/10 all the way down to 0. That's a pretty big change. And we are going to divide that by the original starting value. It started here at 8 and 5/10. And then when we are done with that division, we'll multiply by 100 to get our answer as a decimal. What do we get when we take 8 and 5/10 divided by 8 and 5/10? We get 1. Multiply that by 100, and we get 100%. But you know what? That makes sense, because if we started at something and went down to nothing, it decreased all the way. It decreased and it's gotten rid of everything it had to begin with. So it does make sense that our answer would be 100% in this case. All right, it's now your guys' turn to hop on IXL. I hope that this video helped. If you need anything, make sure to reach out to your teachers. But I think you got this. Good luck.